finally time to get back on the Repo. This video that I did with Kevin, bringing this truck home, is my single highest performing video ever. Thank you guys so much for watching that. But we are finally ready to get to upgrading this thing. For those new to the channel, this is my farm spec and farm fresh 1974 Mazda Rotary engine pickup. If you want the whole story, go to Kevin's channel and watch the revival video on this truck. We drug it out of his yard. It had been sitting for a number of years. The engine was seized, and we fought and fought and fought and finally ran, and I did a donut in the parking lot with no brakes at all. It was awesome. The next episode we filmed on my channel. We got it running, driving properly. We put brakes in it, which are really hard to find. We got the clutch working. We put a muffler on it, rewired the entire engine bay, and we drove it 400 miles all the way to Wisconsin. This particular Mazda Repo is a 1974 flavor, and it has a custom farm spec heavy duty wall tube front bumper. Also has a ridiculous heavy duty step bumper with a 2-inch trailer ball. Now, from all my research on Repos before I went to pick this thing up, they were not known to be torque monsters. People did pull stuff with them, including trailers and campers and stuff, and this one definitely got used. Look back at the video on Kevin's channel and check out what the clutch looked like. On the drive home from Iowa, we left with about 3/5 of the normal clutch that you would have in one of these, and as we got closer to home, the clutch got worse and worse and worse. We couldn't accelerate in 4th gear, going up hills was a problem, and maintaining highway speed was an issue. Welcome to the inside of the Repo. Nothing has changed with this. The can of brake cleaner that we occasionally needed is still in here. Some of the spare parts we bought on the way home are still in here, and it's still very dirty. But I want to show you what the clutch is like. This thing's like one of the most reliable vehicles I own. Fires right up. It's awesome. Well, I don't want to lose anything out of the bed. Oh, it looks like I already did. I lost a box. Okay, now that we're no longer littering, I'll show you guys kind of how this clutch is. 1st gear is fine. 2nd gear is okay. 3rd gear, get into 3rd, give her any throttle. We go nowhere. Engine continues to accelerate and we do not. This was super annoying on the way home, but we did what we had to do. Not too bad for a worn out clutch and a tired old 13B. We had another Parts Fund donation. Thanks to Nick Deemers for your donation. I really appreciate that. Every little bit helps. We had one other interesting donation or gift to the channel, if you will. My friend Kyle stopped me and gave me this right here. He actually had a Mazda Repo Hot Wheels in his collection, and he thought it would be awesome if I had this because it goes with the truck. So thanks a lot, Kyle. That's awesome. All right, so where do we begin? As you guys saw in the test drive, it runs pretty good now, but I'm gonna cut to some old footage.
Time warp. Let's pretend this didn't happen prior. Crazy that we made this all the way home. In a real timeline of events, we did drive this all the way home like a couple days ago. Steve fired it up to see if it would move around, and it was down a rotor because half the carburetor's clogged. So we're gonna warp forward in time to where we definitely rebuilt this in proper continuity.
Gross. What? Why is there clear silicone around the base of this carburetor?
Well, see, the same week that it started having a vacuum leak, they were redoing their bathtub.
Yeah,
so
right.
also ran out RTVs. You know, what are you gonna do when you gotta get to the bar?
I'm concerned.
Oh
no.
What in the world?
Whoa, what is that?
How did, I don't,
I've never seen that before.
It's a screen to keep stuff from falling in, like, you know, keep horsepower from falling in.
To keep horsepower from falling in there?
You'd hate to get a bunch of air in there, but what has gone through it? That's my question.
Probably a small bird, maybe a large insect.
Maybe me with a screwdriver trying to get the secondaries unseized. Remember,
Son of a gun.
the secondaries were seized when we first touched this.
Yeah, they put restrictors on these. They didn't want them to be too fast. Look at this. Oh no.
That's what you want, right?
Oh, yeah, that's what's keeping the horsepower out
You
right
didn't have a
there.
vacuum leak at all.
Oh no. Do you think this is here because there's a giant vacuum leak at the throttle shaft?
No, I think it's just
Okay.
there because it was everywhere, and that was part of everywhere.
Was it outside the environment? Was it towed out of the environment?
No, it looks like it became the environment. What do you find, Steve?
Okay, so I was really concerned when I saw a bunch of silicone on the carburetor base and around it, and I got even more concerned the more I saw. There's a little phenolic spacer here that's glued down, and you can actually see, I'll show you live. Someone cut a piece of screen door material.
That's not factory.
I do not
Wait.
think this is factory.
Is it
Maybe?
part of this gasket?
I have the new one we can compare it to, but I thought, because I felt the wires over here, I thought that somebody just laid a piece of screen in there.
I think they did.
Oh, it did? Oh.
We could Google it. Someone will tell you in the comments.
Oh, no. Oh. Does that look
Look at all the
normal?
horsepower this eats.
Yeah, I know.
Wearing me out.
We're going to make all like 16 or 17 horsepower
That
without
clutch doesn't stand a chance now.
I know. Yep, nope. No kitchen screen.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's bad.
I mean, no, yeah, no, actually.
I don't think so, no. But maybe no. No.
So I guess you got to find a way to transfer this onto that.
No, I need
Do you
that
have
3
a
horsepower.
Japanese screen door?
I do not have JDM screens.
Oh, shit. Alright, survey says, yeah, bit of poop in there, but
Perfect.
not
Whoa.
too bad.
Here's one little.
Yeah, top me off, eh? Oh, it
That'll fix it.
should be good now. Oh, weird carburetor. I like it. I don't know why people don't like it.
The only thing I know is that between the Hitachi and the Nikki carbs, they like the Nikki ones better. I'm not sure. I don't know why people seem to like them better for these.
Either. It's straight up like a Carter. Oh, dude, check this out. There's your primary jet. There's your secondary back in there. You got plugs on all 4 corners that you can take that out and reach in and change the jet without removing the carburetor or taking the top off. At least taking the top off. That's badass. They should have done that forever. Alright, it's been a little bit. That's cleaner than it was. As is this. Everything still seems to work fine. I never found anything indefinite as a reason why we didn't have fuel in one bowl. But, more importantly, we've been able to save you $90 by not opening that.
Yeah, we made our own base gasket here out of this mess as a template. We now have this mess of a gasket. Either way, we saved 90 bucks.
Hell yeah. Alright, let's put this together and try it again.
First, some advice of my good friend Dina Machines. These are the oil injection lines, and there they go, the trash. He said to abandon it. We're going to premix gas and everything's going to be fine.
Huh. Thanks for fixing the clock, Angus.
Welcome. What way does this go on? This way?
Usually bottom side down.
Right side to the right, and
I
front
took it
side to
off.
the back.
I took it off. This side was down.
Oh, no wonder I ran like shit.
Oh.
No wonder it didn't run.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with the fact that this thing was covered in shit for 25 years.
Why are you doing it like that?
I have to.
That's a pretty good response for your.
That is, I'm going to remember that.
Okay. Now we proceed to do 38 connections for lines and stuff, and we'll be back.
Be patient.
You talking to me or the audience?
I don't know. Someone. Are you being patient?
Patient? Yes. Pigeon? No.
I didn't mention anything about a bird. I don't know where the birds came into this.
Kevin, your fly's down.
That appears it is in neutral now. That's good.
Well, it might be. This might be a gear. I don't know.
This ship, okay, hang on.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick sidebar. Put it in gear
I think it is.
and then show how bad that thing moves.
Do it in every gear.
That's 4th or 2nd or something.
I think it's 4th.
That's 1st or 3rd. Yeah, okay. So when we started this and it was in gear, yeah, that might be why.
Well, my favorite part is you can put it in neutral and crank it, and it will still spin the wheels. Like in neutral with the clutch. I guess, engaged, the truck will try to move forward when you're cranking.
Yeah, it
Oh,
definitely needs a
anyway,
clutch. Anyway,
This is on. Now,
look,
hit the
Carburetor.
Pull the lever, Kronk. Something ain't right.
I didn't go buck nasty on those bolts for the carb yet, so I cranked them, but you know, I didn't want to snap them off.
Yeah, that was me pulling as hard as I could
On
the throttle to get it to idle down.
Okay. We'll be back.
Something's wrong.
Troubleshooting. We'll be back.
You hear that? Really high-pitched whistle? Let's check for a base gasket leak. Yep. Let it dry up. Oh yeah. Look at that. You can about stall the engine out by spraying brake clean over here. So we either got a base gasket on the carb or that lower body gasket on the carburetor. One of those two. Very unhappy. Okay, so let's undo all that
Again.
again. Wow, you can see which rotor's not getting fuel. It's bright blue.
really?
The exhaust is a beautiful blue.
Oh, so the one that's, yeah.
You know, because it's lean as hell.
Holy shit.
Steve, I hate to abandon you at this point, but I don't think it's worth you putting a $90 kit in that thing to keep having fuel issues.
No.
And I'm sick of working on it.
I think the next step is to buy an aftermarket manifold and put a very nice HOLLEY 570 that I have off of the Fundred on here.
That's a brilliant
And
idea.
abandon the Hitachi carburetor that everyone doesn't like anyway,
Yeah,
myself included.
They should stick to making drills, excavators, and what'd you call them?
Personal massagers.
We'll see you guys when that time comes around.
Wait, so it's been 2 hours. We had pizza and beer about it. Kevin's in pajamas.
I am. This is
And-
how desperate we are to figure this out.
I decided I probably wasn't going to sleep until we figured this out, so we came back out to the garage at a time at night. And I have to work tomorrow, but I knew I wasn't going to sleep until we figured this out. So
Steve had an idea. I think he's right.
the idea was maybe the one bowl in our carburetor was not filling, or at least filling very slowly, because in fact, the, I don't know, 30-year-old electric pump that was installed on this truck doesn't work very well or was getting weak. We disconnected that line. We have the boat tank hooked back up with the brand new pump I bought. Let's see how it runs.
Actually, before we get to the runs part, and I don't mean Angus had too much buffalo chicken wings today,
Because I didn't.
we can verify, because right now we know our fuel bowl is on the sight glass but on the bottom. So I'll go trigger the pump. You watch to see if it goes up. If it does, we're on the right track.
Let's see. Now, what do you mean you're shutting down?
Bone
All right,
wants to go to bed too.
I am ready.
Pajama time.
Pump on. Fuel coming up.
Yep. Oh, it is coming up. We're at half. A little over half.
Holy crap.
It's staying a little over half.
You got to be kidding me.
Steve, I think you're right. I think the pump just got too weak that it was favoring the one lesser restrictive path up front, which was maybe one float bowl set a little lower or in line.
You know, there's only 10 ways to find out for sure.
So we started the first one.
Beers about it?
No, sorry, the second one. Brag about it.
Oh, rap about it. Let's
Rap
do that.
Rap about it.
Now, we will probably still have our vacuum leak, but if we hear both rotors healthily, we know we're on the right track to at least fix that. Hit it, Steve. That was it. Now I can go to bed.
Good night.
How do I get roped into this nonsense?
Steve's at work. Someone has to do everything off
Where are we
camera.
at Steve's house? He's at work.
This is big YouTuber stuff, you know. They have a crew do it off camera. Yeah.
Am I the crew?
I guess we
Or am I
are.
the camera?
Should I just pretend I'm Steve? Oh. What's up, guys?
Oh my God. Steve doesn't act like that.
No. Some time has passed. Welcome back. It's the next morning. Sitting around the living room last night, we theorized that, oh, hey, maybe, just maybe, the problem with the bowls not filling, which we did discover was fuel pressure related, is the, fuel filter we put before the pump. You know, the one we put there for this exact reason, the one we put in line to fill up and clog intentionally because there was a bunch of rust in the tank and it was supposed to keep the pump from getting full of rust. So maybe if we replace that, it'll work again. Weird. Oh, yep, we found the problem. Oh my God. I've never seen just solids flow out of a filter before. I tipped it without even any fluid in it and it came out like it was sand.
Ooh. Oh my God.
Well, hey, look at us for being smart putting that there. And then being stupid forgetting we put it there. Oh, dude, better than it's ever ran. Taking that window screen out of there made a huge difference. Alright, Angus, I think we can call our journey done. Get the hell out of here.
Can we take this, please?
It is so much better than what we drove. I don't think it's the Apollo snowmobile though. There's no flash left.
No.
Hey, just wanted to show everybody our newly updated merch store. If you head to the channel page here and expand the links, you'll find the merch store right here. This is the newly updated build season merch website. We have all sorts of new designs. We have ladies t-shirts, we have crew neck sweatshirts, zip up hoodies. We have a new Richardson hat down here. So if you're looking for build season merch, here's where to get it. Okay, so with all that being said and done, that's where we're at right now. The truck runs okay, as you saw on the test drive. It makes RPM, it idles okay. Kevin did a little bit more adjusting. We had to clean the fuel filter a couple times. But the thing is, this Hitachi carburetor is number one, difficult to find parts for. A rebuild kit's like $100 on Rock Auto. Number two, they're really difficult to tune and especially not so good for any kind of horsepower. So I'm not a rotary guy. I love the rotary pickup ever since Roadkill. A lot of people do. I'm one of them. But I had a lot to learn about rotaries and I still do. And I tried to learn as much as I could before I went and picked this thing up. So I called the folks over at Atkins Rotary. That's right. I reached out to Atkins Rotary. I had a ton of questions about this repo. I don't know much about rotaries. So I bounced a ton of stuff off them related to the clutch, related to the carburetor, all kinds of things. Dan over there at Atkins was super helpful, answered all of my questions, and hooked us up with some parts. If you guys are into rotaries, if you've rebuilt a rotary, or if you need parts, Atkins has probably showed up in your Google search history. Those guys are awesome. They know what they're talking about. They won't sell you anything that you don't need, and they're really, really easy to talk to. They carry a ton of parts, and they also make their own parts. They sell some aftermarket Apex seals that are hardened or thicker or both. Don't quote me on that exactly. I don't have it all memorized. But if you have any questions or if you need anything for your rotary, whether it be new or old, hit up Atkins Rotary. All right, in the package from Atkins Rotary, the very first thing that we're gonna work on right now, this is a early 13B or 4-port 13B to HOLLEY carburetor manifold. These are from Racing Beat. This is actually a used but nice unit from Dan over there at Atkins Rotary. This is gonna bolt right on and allow us to convert away from that Hitachi carburetor to a HOLLEY unit. The next thing that Dan sent us is an Exetti Stage 1 clutch for the 13B. This is super important. As you guys noticed when we were driving around, this clutch is toast. We did what we had to do to make it home, but this clutch is gonna allow us to put power to the wheels. All right, and last but not least, this is the crown jewel of this entire setup. This right here is a new flywheel. Specifically, this is a flywheel from, I believe, a 1984 RX-7 GSL SE. This right here will go onto the back of the repo and allow us to use that clutch right there. The reason that you need this flywheel is because the repo specific flywheels and repo specific clutches are not made anymore. The only option you have is to go with either a very expensive but also very nice aftermarket unit from Racing Beat or some other flywheel company, or to convert to RX-7 stuff. So that's what we're gonna do today. Man, look at this thing. He did such a nice job on this. All resurfaced and painted and everything. This thing weighs a lot. It's crazy. I guess the older rotaries, they just use really heavy flywheels to maintain the balance in the back of the engine. The newer ones, I guess, have a counterweight, or maybe this is just for manuals. Those of you rotary nerds out there, please chime in the comments and let me know. Now, being that Dan is an awesome guy who thinks of everything, he also sent us a new intake manifold gasket as well as a new rear main seal, because we're going to be in there taking the flywheel off anyway. These both need to be replaced. Thank you, Dan. Really appreciate it. I think my plan of attack is to go after carburetor, fuel lines, vacuum hose, get ready to pull this factory intake manifold off. All right, time to get this pig off. So if anybody needs a, gosh, these are very heavy. What is that, a cast iron base on there? If anybody needs a Hitachi 4-barrel for a 13B, let me know. There'll be one in my yard. All right, so here's what we're left with. That's the gasket that we put on there. We know it's not great. All the studs actually came out trying to get the carburetor out of there. So next up, get that intake manifold off. Alright, it's been a sec. Carburetor's off, intake manifold's loose, and I noticed right down in here, a little bit of coolant. So before I pop this thing off, I'm gonna remove the lower radiator hose into a catch bucket, catch all the coolant, because otherwise I'm gonna have coolant run potentially right into the intake ports of this engine. And this thing has had a tough life, so I'm gonna try to avoid making it any harder. Alright, here's the little guy right down here. I'm actually really surprised that this factory clamp even moves at all. Look at that, green coolant coming out of here already. I've actually had worse, believe it or not. I don't want to say it yet, but I don't think any hit the ground. Alright, I suppose it's time to probably try to start prying this intake off of here. Maybe a polite tap with a hammer. Trying to be gentle. This is the only 13B I have. Off comes the manifold, and we had a casualty. The lower right stud was actually rusted or corroded to the intake. Would not come free, so finally broke off. But at least the stud looks like it's okay in the block. So the gasket surface is all scraped clean. Here is the new intake manifold gasket along with the two coolant seal O-rings from Atkins Rotary. This stuff looks like exactly like OEM, should work just fine. We get these installed and throw that manifold on. All right, so the coolant seals just push into those two little ports right there, and actually they hold themselves in. The gasket slips over the studs. Just like that. Okay, it's time to go in. That brand new Racing Beat manifold. Brand new to me. All right, new manifold is on and looking good. Look at that. Finally, we have a proper flange for a proper carburetor. I wonder which one I can use. Now, when I got the F100, it came with this, a very nice HOLLEY 570 Street Avenger. Now, I know that this is way too much carb for this engine, but it is what I have, and this is a very nice carb that ran very well. Yes, much better. Cool. So from what I read on the forums, if you're gonna run a Racing Beat intake like this with a 4-barrel carburetor, a open carb spacer is highly recommended. The reason for that is if you have a 4-barrel carburetor sitting right over the holes of the manifold just like that, you will get an inconsistent vacuum signal because of the way that the rotors suck as they're turning. So for example, the primary barrels would get an alternating vacuum signal on one rotor or the other depending on where you are in the sequence. So putting the open plenum spacer underneath allows both rotors to pull on both front barrels so that you have a more consistent vacuum signal, and it'll make this thing a lot easier to tune. All right, there's bottom gasket, spacer, and top gasket. Now the throttle cable bracket that's meant for this manifold actually bolts on the underside, or from the underside, and then it kind of kicks up and over to the left. That is coming on Monday. So these two studs are gonna have to come back out. But for today, we can at least put the carburetor on there, hook up the fuel lines, get the regulator in place and all that stuff, and get this thing ready to fire. There we go. There's also some stuff that has to be sorted out with the throttle linkage, and I'll sort that out today or tomorrow. Have to run to town and get a couple of parts. Shouldn't be too bad. So the coolant that came out of this thing, I just put in my waste jug for now. I'm gonna top this off with just plain water. Later, I'll probably flush the system and replace it entirely. But for today, if we are gonna play with trying to get this to run on the new carb, we'll just run it on this. Oh, look. Look who's here. This is S Motorsports. This is 3rd gen. A big exhaust guy, likes it a lot, sounds good. So this is a 6-liter swap 3rd gen. You should check it out on S Motorsports channel. So is the trans finally shifting or what?
It's working now. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, yeah, he made a tune-up change today to what, shift points and shift pressures in the trans, and then it stopped shifting?
Yeah, I made it I made it a few months ago during the winter here, and this is the first time I'm taking it out. So after the QA1 install of all the suspension goodies, and yeah, I don't know, it worked the first trip around the block. Steve's like, hey, put it back to the old tune. So I did that, and now it's working. So
now it's perfect.
Yeah, now I don't know.
So 100 shot of nitrous and call it a day?
Oh, it's pretty quick already.
Nitrous! Yeah, Eric, pop the hood once. I want to show everyone what an LS swap in a 3rd gen can look like if you take your time. So if you take your time and you go through every single part of the install very meticulously, it'll look like this. It basically looks OEM. Looks like it's been there since, what year is this?
85.
Yeah. Yeah, S Motorsports is going to be on Power Tour with us. We're going to have a bigger group. There should be quite a long train of cars this year.
It's going to be sweet. I think we'll have a good group going.
Yeah. Intake manifold only has provisions for vacuum for like the brake booster and maybe one other accessory. So all of these other hoses here, these all run back to what I have found is named the deceleration control valve, which from my understanding, the deceleration control valve cuts fuel to the rear rotor to try to help the engine slow down a little faster when you're downshifting. I talked to Dan at Atkins Rotary. He said for what we're doing with this truck, this can go away. So the deceleration control valve is right here. And all of these hoses can all come off. Just PCB related stuff. Look at this. Okay, so this has already been abandoned. There's a big bolt plugging one of these lines. So there, all these lines can go away. And that's it. Deceleration control valve is gone. On some other cleanup on top of the engine. This diaphragm valve thing was actually hooked up to nothing now, so I think I'm going to abandon it as well. And in addition, I can actually remove this harness right here from this connector, which goes over to the choke on the old carburetor. So I'll keep all that together just in case, but that's all coming out too. Hey, look who showed up.
Hey guys.
Steve 2.0 is here, and you know what that means. I mean, come on, what do I always say? We're gonna get some shit done. I got this fuel inlet because I took the one off of this carburetor and put it on the Fundred outside. So shout out to everybody at my local O'Reilly's for giving me a call when I left this on the counter after paying for it. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thanks for all the help. So we're gonna mount the fuel pressure regulator over here. We gotta reconfigure some fuel lines, tighten this up. And I know we kind of have not a lot of clearance between the end of this fuel hose here, or this fuel line, but we'll see what it looks like with the fuel hose wrapped 90 degrees. Hopefully it's not too bad. Okay, it's been just a second. Fuel pressure regulators installed, new fuel lines, carbs hooked up, tightened down. Throttle cable is not hooked up. I'm waiting on a bracket for that. Let's just check and see if the pump will actually fill the bowl. So go ahead and key it on. Okay, so the pump is running. Got fuel being moved. All right, turn it off. Oh, okay. Looks like I gotta tighten the fittings here on the carb. All right, hit it again. Okay, kill it. I don't think we have any more fuel leaks. Just had to tighten up the fuel log there just a little bit. So what do you say? Crank it over and see if we can get it to fire off?
Hell yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, so let's see. Do we have fuel? We have fuels. No fuels yet, so go ahead and let the pump run a little more. Oh, shut it off. Okay, we got a stuck needle and seat. That's better. Oh, still coming. We'll try this once or twice. If not, I'll have to pull that carb apart and clean it up. All right, go ahead. That secondary float or needle and seat is absolutely stuck. It would not stop gushing fuel out of there.
Or was it?
Yeah, it's just gushing, but man, the throttle response seems a lot better with this carburetor already though. I'm pretty excited.
Sounded great.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to pull the carb off and pull it apart. We'll see in a sec. Pulled the bowl off. I didn't really see anything weird in here. I drained this carburetor of fuel before I put it on the shelf when I replaced it on the Fundred. All in here actually looks nice and clean. The float moves just fine. It looks all good. However, one thing I did learn from Kevin is with these needle and seats, every once in a while, that little O-ring right there will get hard, brittle, whatever. It'll shrink just enough and fuel will come in the carburetor and go right past this and it'll just blow the bowl and flood the bowl and overflow out the vent. So I'm gonna look for an O-ring out of my kit here to see if I have one that'll fit that. We'll check the other side as well and then we'll come back. Kind of as we suspected, this O-ring right here is actually crunchy and it might be shrunk. So yeah, she's all hardened up, cracked, and literally going apart. So I think if we replace this, we should be good. All right, so we replaced the O-rings and the needle and seats on this carburetor. Try just keying it on. Watch the fuel pump fill up. Make sure we don't have any leaks anywhere else. Oh, stop. Okay, gotta tighten that right there. I believe that was it. Okay, shut it off. Okay, go ahead and try to fire it up. So it runs. I think we have an issue with the accelerator pump. I don't think we have quite enough accelerator pump shot on it right now. Oh, that might be the bearing of the alternator. That thing does not sound happy, that's for sure. So you actually found that the fitting, there's a fitting for a hard line on the underside of the intake manifold that was loose. That fitting right there might have been a vacuum leak. So let's try this again now with that all plugged in. Sounds like the front bearing of that alternator is not happy. All right, so the new carburetor and the new manifold, The engine still runs. There's obviously some tuning that needs to be done. I think I need to go through that carburetor properly. It looks like the booster on the one side, on the one primary, was not actually pulling fuel once you got into RPM. The one on the front rotor was, but the rear rotor wasn't, so it was only staying alive on accelerator pump shot. So I won't spend any more time on this now. We're gonna get to the transmission. All right, starter's coming out again. And man, looks a lot better than the last time we pulled a starter out of this thing. This one's not seized and full of rat poop. Well, it shouldn't be. It did just work. Oh, whoa. Is that poop? Is that rat poop?
Hey Steve, what you doing up there?
Taking out the shifter that I forgot to remove before we started taking the transmission out. Because apparently you can't take a manual transmission out without taking the shifter off. Okay, attempt number 2. Right? What? Oh no! Oh no! Hold on.
I'll go back up.
Oh, that sucks. That's gear oil too. Ah, son of a bitch. Well, don't do it that way. Well, we might as well just try to rip it out of there now. Right? Lower that down. Alright, off comes the clutch again. Hopefully for the last time, we will never have to deal with the poop clutch. Oh my god, it's terrible. Oh, it's so much worse than when we put it in. Wow. I mean, it looks like there's just a little bit of life left on it, but man, you can definitely tell that thing was slipping in. Alright, so as you can see, the flywheel looks just as bad as it did before we left Iowa. If you remember correctly, I scraped this flywheel with a super scraper, cleaned it with some brake cleaner, and said good enough. So that right there is a 54 millimeter flywheel nut. And it's got a little washer on it that you have to bend the stake down. That's the lock washer. So the next few minutes here, we're gonna get a 54 millimeter socket on that bad boy and attempt to break it free. Okay, so we are about to try to crack free the 2 1/8 inch and or 54 millimeter nut holds flywheel onto this 13B. I've heard that these are torqued really, really hard, somewhere between 200 and 300 foot-pounds. I don't know. We've got 2 bolts in, old pressure plate bolts in, and a pry bar in between. Steve and I are gonna try to He-Man this thing off of there. Okay, ready? Oh, oh yeah. Oh, that pry bar is bending. Oh,
It's a little thinner than that breaker bar.
hold on just a sec. I think I'm gonna grab glasses in case that thing breaks. All right, ready? Here we go. Oh, oh my God. That thing is on there. Okay, we might have to rig up some sort of way of holding the flywheel and come back. All right, well, I guess I just used the earthquake impact, and there you go. Sorry I didn't film that. I didn't think that would work at all. Couldn't have been easier. What the hell? Oh, there it goes. Oh my God. Oh, for such a small engine, this freaking flywheel is so heavy. There we go. Okay, so here is a glimpse at the rear main seal on an old school 13B. And you can see there's a little bit of evidence of this one leaking, just a little. So we do have a new one. I'm gonna pop that seal out, and then we're gonna suck up the last little bit of the poop that's collected inside here. And then we'll get the new flywheel on. Oh. That is why you wear safety glasses. Sorry, I had to grab my seal installation tool, also known as the bibby hammer. So, per Atkins Rotary instructions, if you are putting in a rear main seal on your 13B, make sure that all the surfaces around where the seal is going to slide into are dry and clean. No lubrication on this guy going in. I know that's not the way to show you care, but apparently 13Bs don't mind. Okay, there we go, new rear main. I'm gonna come in here with the vacuum and suck up the rest of this poop. So this goes on the same way, it's just got a keyway. at the bottom. All right, so the lock nut here, or the nut for the flywheel that went on the Repu, there was a roll pin in the back of the flywheel that would locate that washer that was bent up to prevent this from coming off. I guess to my understanding, the RX-7s don't need that, so we're gonna throw this nut back on and torque it to, I don't know, as hard as the impact can go. I guess we're gonna say that's good enough. I don't know. All right, Steve, what do we have?
Transmissions.
2 of them.
2 of them.
All right, so viewers that are watching that care about this, if you want to put a 5-speed in your Repu and you don't want to, you don't feel like redoing the transmission tunnel, cutting a new hole for a shifter, etc., this is the transmission you need. From a 1979 or 1980 RX-7, this is a 5-speed that is literally the exact same dimension as the Repu transmission. The only difference being the trans mount is like, I think it's like 2 inches further rearward, it looks like. Yep. Other than that, if you look at the length of these transmissions, they're almost identical. In fact, I think they are. I just have this one a little further on the pallet. The drive shaft yoke is the same. The shifter will pop up in the exact same place in the floor. Everything else is the same. The slave cylinder, I believe, is also the same. The throwout bearing that I put on this transmission is actually one that I ordered for the Repu. So throwout bearing on a Repu sleeve inside an RX-7 transmission with the RX-7 shift fork, or a clutch fork. That is what you need to get a budget 5-speed into your Repu. What do you say? Should we go throw this thing in?
Hell yeah.
All right, I apologize, I got ahead of myself. Here is the part number for the clutch kit. This is a stage 1 clutch for a pre-84 RX-7 10806. I'm hoping that this clutch is going to give us just a little bit more holding power so that when we're making all 110 horsepower that this 13V was supposed to make, we won't be slipping the clutch anymore. Let's see, it's a organic clutch disc, full face with a sprung hub, so it should drive like an OEM clutch and not be too bad. All right, so here's our RX-7 5-speed. Should be the same. We're about to check verify fitment that it actually goes into the clutch and lines up with the bell housing bolts. Everything looked the same or very similar on the pallet, so we're gonna give it a go. Good morning, everybody. Steve and I worked last night until about 8 o'clock, at which point we called it quits. The transmission is in the Repu. However, there is a little bit of fabrication that needs to be done. There's a difference in the transmission mount location between a Repu and an RX-7. So here is all of the difference there is between a Repu trans mount and an RX-7 trans mount. That right there is the transmission mount that came on the RX-7 transmission. It is approximately a 1/2 inch further back than the Repu transmission. So to fix this, we're gonna FIP it. FIP meaning fabricate in place. So what I did is I took a piece of 1/4 inch steel plate, drilled 2 holes in there that match the mounting distance between the transmission mount studs, and I jacked the transmission up so that the transmission mount will be sitting flush with the top of this cross member. We're gonna throw this plate on, tack weld it in place, and then pull it out and weld everything solid. Basically, that's how it looks right there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually using the nuts to hold the plate flush with the top of the cross member and tack that in, and then take the trans cross member out and weld it fully. It actually looks pretty good. I'm gonna zap it. That should work. No gas. My bad. All right, now I wouldn't call that pro quality work, but I think it'll work plenty good for what we're doing. So give this thing a quick knock down with the wire wheel and hit it with some black paint and put it back. Yeah, it's not a proper rebuild. Thought a little bit of rebuild spray. Look at that. It's brand new now. All right, there it is. fully welded trans cross member, nice and painted, ready to go. Now while we're under here, I'm thinking maybe I should deal with this. For those of you who watched the video where we drove this truck home, you'll know that we struggled with the rusty hole in that exhaust pipe the whole way home. We actually ended up doing a roadside patch on it twice. So I think I should fix it for real. So as you can see, we definitely just did what we had to do to get this thing home when we were on the road. This is all a mixture of some different types of fiberglass wrap, and I could not be more excited to get rid of it. Okay, considering this is all fiberglass, safety glasses and N95s, I'm hoping that we can just cut all of this off of here. Yeah, look at that crap. I don't know. It worked at the time, I guess, but man, was it stupid. Those patch jobs will get you by in a pinch, but they don't last very long. So here's a picture of the actual damage. This exhaust is rotted out right there after the Y pipe. So I think I'm just gonna cut that out, scab in a new piece of pipe, weld it in real quick, and hopefully this will be fixed forever. All right, so I cut out just the rusty part, and actually the pipe around this is actually quite nice and thick and not rusted. So I took that piece out and roughly traced the cutout on a fresh piece of 2.5-inch pipe. So I'm gonna go cut this piece out, see how it fits, then zap it in. All right, so I've got my piece here, loosely cut to fit. Now what I'm gonna do is just tack weld around the outside just a little bit, and every time I need to kind of suck it tighter to the pipe, just gonna give it a little tap with a hammer just to kind of form it over that merge. Well, there you go. It's not pretty, but it definitely encompasses the entire hole and shouldn't leak, should be good to go. All right, there you go. Drive shaft installed. It literally is a plug and play swap. RX-7 5-speed into a Repu. The only modification being that little tab on the back of the trans. And look at that. Shifter pops up right in the hole where it's supposed to. Here's a hack for everyone. If you're looking for an easy way to pump transmission fluid or gear oil into transmission, buy one of these weed sprayers, cut the tip off of it, and then leave the hose, shove that right into the side of the trans. This pump will pressurize gear oil, 75-90 or whatever really heavy stuff. I also use it for ATF. Now obviously I have a lift, it's up in the air, but you could easily do this for your rear end and stuff on the ground, and you can do it for transmissions, all kinds of stuff, and these cost like 20 bucks. Oh hey, just got back from a little L&L, lunch and a latte. All right, things are all finished up underneath the truck. Transmission's all bolted in, at least from the bottom. We have a couple bolts from the top yet. Starter's back in, and we're full of gear oil. Drive shaft is in, we're ready to bring the car back down. We've reached our first snafu of the project to swap in the RX-7 transmission into the Repu, and that is the shifters. So the difference here is that the length between the fulcrum and the pivot, or the shift ball on the end, is longer on the Repu than the RX-7 transmission. In your swap, if you can use the shorter and bent, laid back RX-7 handle, then you're basically done. However, I put both of these in here, and I actually like the factory Repu shifter stick a little bit better. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the ball off of the RX-7 shifter. I'm gonna weld the shorter RX-7 fulcrum shift point here onto the Repu stick so that I can still get the shift knob in the right place inside the car, but hopefully we don't do any damage to the inside of the transmission. Okay, so here I've got the shifter stick out of the Repu, the factory shifter stick cut and oriented the way that it will go in. I mean, this is the kickback right here, so it's bent up this way. The only thing I have to do is align this slot in the shifter ball with that kickback. So essentially, there's gonna be our shifter ball right there. All right, there we go. Ugly, but functional. Now we have the Mazda RX-7 fulcrum distance, so this will fit into the transmission housing. Everything will work nice, but we have the Repu stick. So this will put the shift knob in a really good place, just like factory. It actually seemed like I lined up the bend pretty good. So we'll throw this thing in, see how it looks. And there you go. Repu stick with the RX-7 shift fulcrum into the RX-7 5-speed. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, reverse. Wah, wah. All right, you get it. Yesterday you guys saw this thing run with the new carburetor on there. However, it wouldn't do much other than idle. I think the problem is the booster on this rotor, so this side booster, both of those are the primary, is clogged. I think I may have to take that carburetor apart and actually fix it all the way. However, I think just for grins, I'm gonna hook the battery back up, crank this thing over and see how it runs today. Maybe it'll be better. It is really difficult not having a throttle cable right now. Okay, so it's still doing the same thing. Okay, I took the carb back off. I just wanted to look at the jetting on the primary side, and upon closer inspection, this carburetor has some gook in it. I don't know how well this will show up on camera, but I didn't see this the first time. There's all kinds of dirt, dust, stuff in the bottom of this carburetor bowl. I don't know if that is our problem necessarily, but I am going to do a better job cleaning it this time. So for reference, this carb is jetted to 54 on the primary side. So according to Google and the RX-7 forums, people running around a 600 CFM Holley-ish carburetor on a 13B. They recommend starting with a 67 jet in the main. Currently what I had in here was a 54. I'm gonna see if I have a 67. If not, maybe we'll go to like a 65, because that should add quite a bit more fuel. We'll see if that makes a difference. All right, so I did find some 67 jets in the kit. My neighbor Eric from S Motorsports is borrowing me this kit. Thank you very much, Eric, I appreciate it. I'm gonna try the 67s because that is the starting point recommended by the internet. Seems like a lot more fuel in general. However, considering most of the time this thing is gonna run on the primary barrels, maybe that makes sense. We'll start there, see what it does. If it doesn't like it, we can always change it again. Okay, we've got the 67 jets in the primary side. Let's fill it up with fuel, get it running. We'll see if it behaves any different than last time. We already have fuel. Here we go. Better. You can actually stab it. Oh yeah. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Yeah. Oh, I wish I had a throttle cable. It sounds good. I think we might need just a touch more to get the idle set up. Yeah. Oh, this thing RPMs like that. That is awesome. Holy cow. I think I still have some work on the idle. Yeah, I gotta work on the idle a little bit. This thing screams. Kick-ass. Alright, let's check the clutch. Hell yeah! Woo! Okay, so at least first and reverse in our new to us transmission works, and the clutch works, which is good. That means the throw-up bearing is good. That means clutch slave and all that stuff is gonna work just fine. Yes! Okay, that's it for tonight. My neighbors are probably sick of me making tons of noise. This thing was backfiring so loud before that I'm sure they're all relieved that I'm done for the day. I need a throttle cable bracket. That's why we can't drive this thing, and I'm not really in the mood to hook up a string with a spring on the carburetor. It just seems dangerous and stupid. I'm gonna wait for that part. It should be here tomorrow. All right, forget everything I said in the last clip. You should forget a lot of the things I say. I want to put an exhaust on this truck. It sounds like a weed whacker, like sometimes a snowmobile. That would actually sound better. I'm gonna see if I can't tone down the angry bumblebee sound. So my approach to this was sort of the California approach, if you will. This right here is Summit Racing's version of an ultra quiet resonator. So this is just a perforated tube, and then it has stainless steel packing or fiberglass packing around it to quiet it down. So this is one half of the exhaust I want to put on here, and this is the other half. This is a Cherry Bomb Salute, also a perforated tube with stainless steel packing. I heard an LS with these Cherry Bomb Salute mufflers on Power Tour. ZZ's Garage. Check him out on YouTube. He's got a 6 C10 on some awesome Detroit steel wheels. Man, I love Detroit steel wheels. Anyway, he was running these Cherry Bomb Salute mufflers on his 5.3 swap C10, and my goodness did it sound good. So I'm hoping that with this and the resonator, I can quiet this exhaust down but not restrict the flow too much. Again, that is ZZ's Garage on YouTube. I'll put it up here. So looking at the way this exhaust runs, it comes over the axle and then dumps right out here, right behind the passenger side tire. What I think I'm gonna do is get rid of this ridiculous bumper that I'm not gonna use, and instead of coming out and doing a 90, I think I'm gonna come straight back, right flush or a little bit beyond the back of the truck, and just come straight out with the muffler. Oh man, doesn't that look better already? Holy cow. Me personally, I think all Repus should have no bumper in the back. I just like this look a lot better. If any of you need a heavy duty rear step bumper for a Mazda Repu, feel free to shoot me an email. I would sell it cheap. Let me know. All right, you might remember this muffler right here that Kevin and I sort of installed temporarily when we were in Iowa. I'm not using this long term, but it did the job for the trip home. So we made this quick release. One cut over here, and voila, muffler's gone. We also had some other weird adapting stuff going on here. That's totally fine. I'm gonna get all these adapters and stuff off, and we'll put a muffler in here. All right, sorry for the lack of time lapse, but I'm excited and I want to hear what this sounds like. So here is the Cherry Bomb Salute muffler put in place of the old turbo muffler over there. I am gonna lower the truck down and see how it sounds with just this. That's loud. That is very loud. Holy cow. Absolutely not. That is incredibly loud. Holy crap. Put the other one in. Okay, same excuses as last time. I'm just trying to get this done before dinner. So I put the ultra quiet resonator right at the end. It's just proud of the rear of the truck. I may have to take this in a little bit, may have to tweak it just a little, but that's what it's gonna look like from the back. I may have to put a turn down on there, but let's get it down so we can hear it. Okay, here we are, 2 resonators essentially. Better, but still pretty loud. Oh man, okay. So it still sounds pretty loud, but a lot of that is from the massive leaks because I didn't finish welding everything. I think it's gonna sound pretty good, so I think I'm gonna go through, weld everything up, and then test fire it again, but that'll be tomorrow. So here it is with the Vibrant Performance Ultra Quiet Resonator at the back, and then the Cherry Bomb Salute muffler kind of in the middle, acting as a resonator. All right, this is the next day. I finally got the throttle cable bracket I've been waiting for. This is from Racing Beat. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to pull a couple of the carburetor studs as this mounts from underneath the manifold. I'll get this installed. We have to make a couple modifications for a throttle cable. We're getting close to driving it. All right, I've got the throttle cable hooked up. Go ahead and judge if you want on that little bracket I made, but it'll work for today until I can order a better part. It turns out the linkage and stuff for these rotaries with this throttle cable is not available like anywhere easy to get. So I have to buy another piece to modify that further. Anyway, without any further ado, I'm gonna try to start this thing and run it from inside. Wonder if it's flooded. All right, looks like the throttle return spring got stuck. Let's try this again. There, it got stuck open. Okay, I have adjusted my throttle return spring location. Let's try again. Here we go again. Reverse. First. Not into the landscaping. The clutch engages right off of the floor. Holy cow. Second. Third. Fourth. All right, let's hit fifth. There it is. Fifth gear, baby. Top speed, 70. Woohoo! Okay, so the exhaust is actually awesome. It's nice and quiet, not bad while you're cruising at all. So I was a little concerned about that, but it turned out good. We definitely still have work to do with the carburetor. I think we're only running on the primaries. I know I have to adjust the vacuum diaphragm for the secondaries. Doesn't seem like they're opening. We probably need a little more jet on the primary as well. Either way, we have a 5-speed Repu that drives. Yeah, man, that was fun. Holy shit. It was so awesome to drive this truck. I haven't driven it much since we got back from Iowa. I realize I'm shouting at the camera. I'll calm down, I promise. We have a 5-speed Repu. This thing is awesome. Yeah, sure, it was running out of fuel. Definitely needs a bigger main jet and probably an accelerator pump cam. But either way, I hit 70 miles an hour in 5th gear with an RX-7 5-speed that requires like no fabrication to put in. The new clutch grabs right off the floor. It's super grippy. I really like it. The exhaust, believe it or not, sounds really good. It's good rotary braps, but not too annoying, especially when you're cruising. However, the one thing that still annoys me about this truck is this dang front bumper. This is not on a farm anymore. I think we can lose this thing. what do you think of that? Oh my God, it's so much better. Oh, finally get rid of that ugly ass tube bumper, and voila, we have got the front end of a frickin' Repu. Man, you guys have no idea. Those of you on the Rotary Truck Facebook page, thank you. These parts, the lower valence and the bumper and grills and headlights and stuff, are impossible to find for these darn trucks. It's so cool. That's right, things look a little different at the back of the truck. I found a rotary powered tailgate for my Repu. This is the defining feature of this truck. It has to have one, otherwise it's just a Mazda B1600. That's quite the improvement for one episode, man. We did a ton of work. 5-speed swap, full exhaust, carburetor intake. It has a tailgate. It has a front bumper. Oh my God, it's so much better than it was. Finally looking like a proper rotary engine pickup. That's all for this time. Next time you see this truck, I think we should paint the hood, at least bare minimum, to match the rest of the truck. And this thing is riding like a 4x4. I think we need some suspension work, steering fixes, wheels and tires, etc. Maybe some interior. So those of you in the Wisconsin area, look for this thing on the roads. Check it out. I'm going to be at as many shows as I possibly can this year. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one.